Okay. Oh yeah, it's got a live coming up here. That's cool.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm going to record it as well.
Great.
Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of HR Sound Off.
It's got a live coming up here.
Awesome. So we are actually working. I'm going to mute this one so that I don't hear it over there. And we get all our technology in a row. Thank you so much, Kamara, Toffolo, for being a part of this special live session of HR Sound Off today. I really appreciate it. How are you doing, my friend?
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm doing great. It's Sunday. It's the day of rest. And the day of
here we are
going live and recording videos. So yes, it's a good day. How are you doing?
I am doing really good. Thank you so much.
Good.
So we are here today in particular because HR Sound Off is for our HR professionals, helping us to do better and be better, but also to demystify our profession. But I also want us to be able to unleash that champion within. And so in doing that, one of the ways that I thought I could support my HR community is through having this interview with you to talk about how we can better utilize LinkedIn. Because I think for many people, LinkedIn is one of those spaces that they're now trying to navigate as a result of COVID. They're now figuring out the importance of having that virtual community, and they're now trying to build that, or they're trying to build their career, or they're looking for jobs, or whatever the case may be. And I figured who better to have this conversation with but you, Miss Kamara. LinkedIn top voice, resume writer, guru, all things LinkedIn, helping us to create better profiles.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and give us your LinkedIn journey, a little snapshot of what your LinkedIn journey has been like.
Sure. So a little bit about me. So I am Kamara Toffolo. I'm a resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist. And I help established professionals dare to do work differently and land great fitting gigs. And I am very lucky to have clients all over the world. And I largely work with folks who are mid-management up to the C-suite and board. So I've had a lot of fantastic clients. I'm very lucky to do what I do. My LinkedIn journey, actually, I would call myself a bit of a LinkedIn early adopter. Okay. Before I started my own business, I was in my last role in corporate was in fintech and financial technology. And I think that's when I joined up with LinkedIn. I can't recall, but I remember using it a lot. I remember being found as a passive candidate for roles. I searched for jobs on LinkedIn. So I've been using LinkedIn for many, many, many years.
Right.
And then when I launched my business, initially I was a career coach, but then I shifted and I was focused more on the job search side of things. And LinkedIn was the first area where I pivoted my business. Right. I was doing a lot of work on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn came before resumes for me, and it's very close to my heart. And it's just so important, as you've noted, for us to tell our stories on there and to really just show up on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Absolutely. What's your favorite part about what you do now?
My favorite part about what I do now, so I do a lot of writing, and I do consider myself a resume writer, and and that is what I do. Yes. But what's more important for me and what I enjoy more than the writing part is the time that I spend with my clients, uncovering and kind of teasing out the amazing, unique, different standout stories that they have from across their career. So when I work with clients, I work with them over the phone for 2 hours before we actually write anything. And that's my favorite time, because I get to know them, and I almost always go overtime on those calls because I'm so curious about them. And I just love listening to what they have to say. And everybody's story is so different. Like no story is the same, not even similar. And so that's really my favorite part of the work that I do.
That really shows that you put your people first, you know, as you go to understand them before you can tell them how you're going to help them build their portfolio or their career, right?
Yes, yes, it's always people first, just like in
Mhm.
HR.
Yes. Super important. That's I truly believe in putting people first and helping them to figure things out, but understanding them and
Right.
what makes them tick is
Mhm.
really important. So, what would you say is the number one mistake as we talk about my people, my HR community? What is one of the biggest mistakes that we're making right now on LinkedIn as HR professionals?
As HR professionals, I would say I can't fault every HR professional for this because there are a lot of HR professionals who are rocking LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that back to the point of people first,
Yes.
um, some HR professionals are losing sight of putting themselves first as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So they're losing sight of showing up as a human. I see a lot of bare bones LinkedIn profiles. So it's just listing jobs, no summary, headline that says HR generalist or HR business partner at blah company, some HR-ish skills and their schooling, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a number of huge missed opportunities to connect with a reader, whomever your audience is in
Mm-hmm.
that case. So it's really, forgetting to be human first on LinkedIn is what I'm
Yes.
seeing.
And for people who are supposed to be focusing on humans first, not doing that for themselves, especially on such a very dynamic platform where you can either bring in talent or you can be seen as talent, is very very disheartening. Like for
Mhm.
me, it's almost hurtful
Mm.
when I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
totally get that. And it's truly not walking your talk. Like
No.
you may feel and it may be a core value of yours to put people first. And I would assume so if you moved into the field of HR or you work in the field of HR, but tell people that like we're not going to assume that,
No.
right? So
Hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. I really believe that. And I think it's important for us to. So, you're going to walk us through a couple things that are really important for us. So, what are some of the quick wins? I always like to give people those first. The quick wins that we can achieve on LinkedIn if we really want to come across as that people first champion that we are saying we are.
So, from a profile perspective,
Yeah.
we need to really make great use of our headline and our summary section or our about section, whatever LinkedIn
Hmm.
calls it now.
Hmm.
So the headline is great because we have now, I think it's 220 characters to work with
Yes.
versus the
Yes, we do.
previous 120. They gave
Yeah.
us a bunch more characters, which is
Hmm.
great in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, so you can just say so much there, and my kind of formula for the headline is type of professional you are, so HR business partner, HR generalist,
Hmm.
and then following that up with the main solution you create. So, and then if you're trying to show that you're people first, integrating language that conveys that mission and that value.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Hmm.
Summary is a huge free form field that where you can say whatever you want to say, tell whatever stories you want to tell. And
Hmm.
so that's really what you want to be doing there. And we want our profiles in first person. I'm seeing a lot of third person written
Yeah.
profiles still, uh,
Hmm.
super unapproachable. Like you wouldn't be on Facebook, let's say, not that I want to compare LinkedIn and Facebook, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't be on Facebook
Referring to yourself and
referring to yourself in third person,
no,
like,
not at all.
yeah, like this is Kamara, and these are our photos from her Christmas celebration. As you can see, Kamara's having a great time. Like that just sounds ridiculous. So
Rolling commentary.
yeah, yeah. So we want to use LinkedIn from our own voice. We want it to read as though it's coming from us.
Yeah.
That's really the point. And
Hmm.
so lots of stories or sharing your philosophies on HR, why you got into HR,
Yeah.
why you stay in HR. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the type of stuff I really love to read,
Yeah.
is what motivates you to do what you do,
Mm-hmm.
what started motivating you in the beginning, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important. So I wouldn't say those are quick wins, but those are big wins, like
Yes.
really moving the needle on your LinkedIn profile. So those
Yeah.
are like the two things that need to be prioritized big time.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more. And just as you were talking about, especially the headline,
Mm,
because I know a lot of people just use that to say, okay, this is Julie Turney. I am the CEO of HR at Heart. Full stop, the end. But I'm more than the CEO of HR at Heart
mhm,
or the host of the HR Sound Off podcast. I'm more than that.
mhm.
And so who am I, and define that, and use those characters. It took us a while to get a fight out of LinkedIn to give us something more.
Right.
um, and then there was like these little tweaks, because I did realize that you were able to utilize more on a desktop than you could on mobile, or maybe it was the reverse.
It was first the reverse, but
Yeah,
now there it's a consistent experience across the two, which is
across
great.
the two. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, say who you are, who you want. Who am I going to meet when I come onto the job for the first time? What's my experience going to be like with HR? And
Mm,
if I'm able to look at your LinkedIn profile as a candidate, and then be a successful potential employee, and then be an employee, and I go and I research all of you HR people that I'm going to interact with in the organization, and all I see is you're just the HR manager, like, you know, what is that? You know?
right. Absolutely.
So I totally agree with you that, more needs to be done to say who you are and tell a little bit of your story, because you want to create a people first culture where people are allowed to bring their entire human to work. Therefore, you should show up as that human being on LinkedIn. But
Mhm.
but Kamara, why does that matter? Why does it matter now? And why does it matter on LinkedIn?
To show up as human.
Yes.
Um, it matters because, well, let's say you are job searching as an HR professional. Humans hire humans, right?
Mhm.
So
I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
Dismiss the AI in between.
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, humans hire humans, and you want to give the perception that you share the values of your target company,
Mhm.
first of all, but also that you're going to be someone who someone else wants to have as a coworker. And a blank profile doesn't tell anyone that you're someone cool to sit next to, right?
Mhm.
And so there's that. If you are on the other side, where you are a talent acquisition professional, or you are in HR, within a company, you want to seem approachable. Like, that's why you want to or that's why you want to come across as human, because you want people approaching you
Yeah.
with things that they need, because that's your whole job, right?
Mhm.
You want your own business partners to feel like they can approach you to create people-centric solutions
Mhm.
in partnership with them. It's about approachability on both sides. So whether
Yes.
you're job searching, or whether you're in a job and you want to attract talent or attract collaboration.
Yes. Definitely important for both of those things. And if we want to be successful, we really need to be more forward thinking. So let's talk about the HR professional, the person who says, I don't think I'm ready to make this transition with all this tech. I don't feel comfortable utilizing LinkedIn in this way. How do you help that person to become a little more comfortable with exposing themselves?
Mm. So certainly, we need to, when we're writing our profiles, we need to stay true to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and our values. And if something feels like it's exposing yourself, then you need to maybe reconsider what you're sharing. LinkedIn should never feel like you're exposed. And And certainly we do want to, especially when it comes to our work experience section, we do want to make sure that we are refraining from sharing any information that may be considered confidential with our companies. So there's a lot that could be considered confidential, and LinkedIn is a very public place. So being very aware of that before you put something out there. But in terms of using LinkedIn on an ongoing basis, what I like to recommend to help people kind of warm up to the idea or warm up to habitual and consistent use of LinkedIn is to really do what is a high value interaction that doesn't cost you much time. So, and that is commenting on other people's posts. So you don't need to post your own stuff. You don't need to think up some amazing blog post and put it on Publisher. You don't need to do that. It is more than enough to comment on other people's posts, and that increases visibility way more than we realize.
Absolutely. And I've also learned that liking and sharing, not sharing, supporting. So, you know, you have all those different icons, but I've learned that when you say you support something, it means a little more in the algorithm than just saying, I like this, or I'm celebrating this, but I support this. And then if you comment and share and say, this is why I support this, then it also adds meat to your profile as well.
For sure. And from LinkedIn's selfish standpoint, let's say, like their self-serving standpoint, I'm not dogging them or anything. This is just the way it is in their business. Comments keep a conversation going. And the longer you keep people's eyeballs on LinkedIn, that means the more ads they can throw in front of you. So they want those comments.
Definitely. And what about in terms of sharing content? I see a lot of people share content, but they just share the content. They don't say why they like the content. Why is it important for us as HR to at least make those comments on the things that we are sharing?
Yeah, sharing, first of all, from an algorithm standpoint, sharing is not treated that well. I would say that's one of the last things you really want to do. Instead, it would be better to comment on it. But let's assume we are sharing it. The reason that you don't want to just share it and not comment on it or not add your own thoughts is because it just, your readership, your connections, they have no context for why you shared what you shared. Like, assuming you're sharing things that are on brand for you, so HR related, which is really important as well, and we can talk about that too. If you're sharing HR related stuff, you need let's say you have a great article from Forbes that you shared, that someone else on in your network shared. You want to give a little bit as to why you felt that was important, maybe even what you disagreed with. That's fine too. But there's really no point in just sharing something and then taking off. No one's going to want to interact with it. You're not going to get a conversation going. It's just kind of a waste of your time, frankly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And I always say it's important to at least explain why you liked the piece of content that you're sharing. From an HR perspective, as you said, on brand. HR as a brand, like I don't think that people make that connection that, yes, I'm an HR professional working with a company, but I'm an HR professional. And Julie of herself, I am a brand. Like my personal brand matters. And I don't know how many times I've had this conversation with fellow HR professionals to say, you are something more than the HR manager, the CHRO of this VP of HR of this particular organization. You have a personal brand, and your personal brand must tell a story that makes people believe, or, you know, and intentionally so, that you are intentional about the career that you are pursuing. What are some of the recommendations that you would make for HR professionals in terms of the content and building their brand as an HR professional?
Right. So, in terms of the content, first of all, I want to put minds at ease. I think there's a lot of chatter on LinkedIn about becoming a thought leader. So, don't stress. None of us need to become thought leaders. It's not necessary. The whole point about sharing content, writing your own content if you so wish, or commenting on other content is, and I did not come up with this, so I can't take credit for it. One of my colleagues, and I can't remember who, said that you're creating almost like a paper trail of having certain values, beliefs, and a commitment to a mission, right? And so when people are going to view your profile, they may not go way back in history and see what you've been doing and how you've been interacting with stuff. But if they follow you after a while, they're going to see what you're all about. In terms of being on brand, we want to stay on brands also so as to not confuse people. So like for me, I want to share content or comment on content that's related to resumes, job searching, LinkedIn, interviewing, whatever within that sphere. If I start sharing content about like the GameStop stock that just skyrocketed because of Reddit, people are going to get confused unless somehow I can link it to job search, which I can't think of a way. So it's like when you start sharing that starts to really confuse people, and they wonder like, well, what are you all about? And so we want to make sure that we're showing people on a consistent basis and in a consistent manner what we're all about.
Yes, definitely. So I'm all about people first. Everything I share is about organizations who are creating people first cultures, doing great things from a people perspective. But I also share my personal experiences in the people for in my what I believe as creating a people first environment or a people first setting for people to feel comfortable, and about people bringing their entire human to work. So it means I have to get vulnerable. So I get vulnerable in my content as well, because those things really do matter and make a difference.
For sure. I can totally see that because of being in the business of people, sharing stories, personal stories, vulnerable stories, that connects with, the humanity of people. And so I can see huge benefit of that.
Definitely. So I recently shared a post that spoke to neurodiversity and why it's important to have neurodiverse employees in your organization. And I shared the fact that I was diagnosed with ADHD from the age of 5, but I've learned coping mechanisms in order to deal with my ADHD. And as I got older and continued to build my career, podcasting was one of the ways that really helped me with my ADHD, because it's how I connect with people, and I do it from the comfort of my home because I'm also an introvert, but helps me to stay focused on conversations. I'm having conversations about things that I love and that I want other people to be able to benefit from. So it's not like I'm having a boring podcast about, and this is how you create this policy and this is what you should word it. No, I'm having meaningful conversations with people who are going to not only shape my career, but also other HR professionals, and help them to build not only their personal brand, but also the people first cultures that every organization deserves to have. And that's why we're having this conversation today.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you covered that topic, and I'm going to go and grab that post and share it with someone who actually commented on my live office hours episode on Thursday. He was asking, he's on the autism spectrum, and he was asking about tips for job searching on the autism spectrum. So I'm going to send that over to him because neurodiversity is just so important and brings so much value to an organization. And so I think that's great that you're talking about that.
Yes, definitely. Because I think as we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, yes, we talk about racism because it matters. We talk about equality because it matters, but there are other parts of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and neurodiversity is one of those things that matters as well, because people who are neurodiverse are very creative.
Yes.
They're very intentional. Their attention to detail is amazing, especially when they're doing stuff that they love. And I just don't want people to miss the opportunity of hiring neurodiverse talent. As a matter of fact, I actually read a survey that said recently in the UK that one in seven people in your organization probably is neurodiverse. And if you're in an organization of 200, 2,000, 20,000 people, imagine how many neurodiverse employees you have.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we may label some people as difficult employees, but we haven't taken the time to understand whether or not they may be neurodiverse, or they may have been dealing with some kind of trauma that they haven't dealt with. And so we really need to focus on, when we look at that word diversity, equity, and inclusion, everything that it encompasses, and work towards creating a culture that recognizes every piece of that word, DE and I.
Absolutely. Now, may I ask you, did you talk to your previous employers about being neurodiverse?
So funny enough, yes, because I always I have a quirky sense of humor, and I have a way of bringing out things. But from the first interview, I actually did mention it, and I just said, you know, for me, to the effect of, you know, I'm a very visual person, and that's due to my ADHD. Now,
Awesome.
how they take that, you know, is some people just were like, oh, okay, what does that really mean? And ask for a little more explanation. And
Yeah.
then I did see a change in faces across the table, but it didn't stop me from getting the job. The point is, I was very upfront about it. I'm a very visual person. So don't look for me to be writing all this stuff. I'll give you very short, quick PowerPoints with a couple of bits of statistics that really matter and are going to be a huge impact to the organization. And that's because I have ADHD. I don't have time to give you all these long verbiage. I don't have the time for it.
Who does? Who wants it?
Some people do, but I don't. I really
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
And I was very honest and upfront about it, and they really did appreciate that.
That's
So,
awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah. I think I've been very fortunate to take the opportunity to follow and research a lot about how, you know, to have that courageous conversation, because it is a courageous conversation to have.
Right.
But it really does help when you are open and honest about these things. And as I've gotten older, without giving away my age, I recognize the importance of being honest and sharing my story, because sharing my story helps people understand who I am and, you know, what I bring to the table. It's hard to get that from a piece of paper.
Definitely. It really is. It really is. And I write resumes for a living, and I still acknowledge that.
So I really am appreciative of the fact that LinkedIn came along and that it has become as progressive as it has in helping persons to share their stories and experience in a way that persons can really appreciate it. For me as a recruiter, being able to look at people's LinkedIn profiles and learn a little bit more about who they are, I get a lot from the content that people share. I get a lot from the people they follow. And I get a lot from looking at recommendations or the skills and competencies that they've listed in their profile. So when you properly utilize your profile, it really does help a recruiter to be able to make a very conscious and intentional decision to put you on the list as a potential candidate.
For sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about, and I'm conscious of time, we're getting away, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about what the experience looks like with you. So when clients come to you and they say, Kamara, I want you to help me build my resume or build my LinkedIn profile, do you say both hand in hand? Because I know for us as HR professionals, I find our resumes suck. We really, you know, we're looking at resumes all day long, but when it comes to our own resumes, we suck. And we really need to do better, and be better, just like our LinkedIn profile. So what does an experience with you look like, Kamara, to help an HR professional, you know, fix that up?
For sure. So first of all, it's very hard to write about ourselves. We're too close to the topic to really see clearly what we should be sharing and what can help us stand out. So in any case, so with me, I tend to recommend for someone who I work with that we do their resume and LinkedIn at the same time. And that's because my goal is to really ensure consistency and continuity of branding across the two, the document that is the resume and the dynamic LinkedIn profile. So that's really the goal. It's generally speaking, I am doing a full rebrand for my clients. So I never work with existing resumes if I'm writing them, and we start from a blank page. And so basically, I do have a questionnaire for them to fill out, which is quite extensive. And then we have our 2-hour call where I dig into their career stories, and then the writing happens at that point. So it's everything written at once. And then that really makes sure that there's cohesion to all the stories that are being told. Yeah, so it's quite a long process with me. All told, it takes about 3 weeks with me to get their documents finalized. And yeah, it's there is also the option. I do coach people through writing their own LinkedIn profiles or writing their own resumes, but that's rarer because a lot of people don't come to me for help with DIY. They're coming to outsource it entirely. And also it's a requirement on my end that any client who I work with must have identified their target job. That's super critical because, as as people in HR know, how are you supposed to figure out where someone fits if they don't know where they fit themselves? So
Yeah, I love that. And that you're so detailed with it as well.
thank you.
So thank you so much for that. So where can these amazing people find you so that they can work with you on improving their resumes and their LinkedIn profiles, Kamara?
So I'm Kamara Toffolo everywhere, and it's probably showing on the screen. That's so Kamara Toffolo on LinkedIn. My website is kamaratoffolo.com. I'm on YouTube, Kamara Toffolo Careers, and I'm on Twitter at Kamara Toffolo.
So we have a full extensive list of where we can find you. There's no mistaking it. I will include it in the comments as well. Any parting words for our audience before you go on anything LinkedIn that you think they should know that we didn't cover?
Some parting words is, let's see. Maybe going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, and more so a reminder is you're a human first. So just remember that whenever you're writing your LinkedIn profile, if you're writing your resume, if you're writing your cover letter, if you're having conversations, if you're networking, you're a human first.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to ask you the one big question that I ask every HR professional or person that comes on our show. What is the biggest misconception about HR that really bothers you that you'd like to set the record straight on right here, right now?
About HR? I think I've done so much learning as I've gotten into the field of job search. So maybe this isn't HR, but this is recruiting related, is that the ATS, and this is, I can unpack this in another episode. The ATS is not as advanced as people think it is, and it's not getting in your way. It's not getting in between you and actually getting a job, and that it's not rejecting you. That's happening. Any rejections are coming from a human. Humans are reading your resume. Always think of the human when you're writing your resume. Stop stressing out about the ATS. It's not that big of a deal.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kamara.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate it. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today and share those tips with our audience on how they can better improve their LinkedIn profiles. So, guys, look out for Kamara anywhere on LinkedIn. You can see her. She has videos on there. She's always sharing useful tips on how you can improve your LinkedIn profile and your resume. And if you're looking for someone to help you build out your resume, your LinkedIn profile, Kamara is the one to go talk to. She will help you with that detailed extension of building out who you are and your personal brand as an HR professional. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.